Good afternoon. We are about to start our Finance Committee meeting for April the 20th, 2020. During this meeting, we are implementing the new guidelines for the Oklahoma State Legislature to allow remote participation in public meetings under the Open Meetings Act during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some council members are participating by phone as well as some citizens. I would like to remind the councilors to mute their phones when they are not speaking, and for everyone to use their name when making motions or speaking so we can keep good minutes of who's making those motions. And so with that being said, we would call to order the April 20th meeting, 2020 of the Finance Committee. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of April 6, 2020.
Reviewing of the minutes, are there any corrections or additions to our minutes? We have a motion.
It's Councilman Ivory Van. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Councilman McGee, second.
I have a motion and a second to approve our minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 1 passes. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments March 28, 2020 through April 10, 2020.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, the purchasing committee did meet this afternoon, and we approved all the claims. So I make a motion, we approve this item for claims for March 28, 2020 through April 20, 2020. This is Councilor Stout.
Mayor Boydston, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 2 passes. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to reject bids submitted on the Rehabilitation and Revitalization Program for the repair of 5 dwellings or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan? If
The
she's
90A requirement. The ordinance states that a contractor's bid should not be considered unless a certificate of competency by the contractor's pre-qualification board is issued. So staff will revise and update the project specifications and contact as many contractors as possible to submit the applications to receive a certificate of competency. And then upon review of those submittals, we will look at other avenues in order to continue and complete the rehab project for the 2019 Foundation fiscal year grant cycle. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any discussion?
Ms. Callahan, this is Councilor Coleman. The question,
Yes,
or statement I have rather, well, I guess it is a question. The reason we need to reject these bids in particular is because at the time we adopted our new plan, these bids were already anticipated to come in. Is that correct?
That is correct. We had published, advertised for bids prior to the ordinance being passed, and the bids had been in the works prior to the ordinance being adopted.
This is Mike Miller, Councilor Coleman. I'd also like to address, we did extend the deadline after this was passed to allow for time for people to try to become pre-qualified.
Because Councilor Coleman speaking again, one of my concerns is that those participants who are putting in for bids, if they don't understand that process, we may continue getting delays and lag time. And my concern is that this money has already received one extension so that we can properly expend it and I want to be certain that as we go forward, we have an opportunity to complete the residents' homes without having to have another extension.
We did address that with the foundation last Monday at a meeting, and they have agreed, understanding that the change in our process requiring the pre-qualification and the rejection of bids, they will allow us to make this money available after June 30th.
So as it stands now, how long will it take, or how much time will be added to the timeline now that we have to reject the bids and basically start over? If we don't know that, that's fine, but I'm just trying to gauge, because as residents call and ask those questions, we need to be able to tell them that their home will get done, but I don't want them to be disappointed with having to deal with other tragedies at this time that their home may not get done.
So their home not getting done isn't an option. And so there's two ways. One is that we've been trying for several weeks to get vendors to pre-qualify, and we have not. And we knew when we passed the pre-qualification ordinance, we'd only been getting one bid at that time. And so we knew we'd been having trouble getting contractors apply, and then we were, by having the pre-qualification ordinance, that we may continue to have not just people put bids in, but now we're at an extra step to get pre-qualified to do that. So what Ms. Callahan said earlier is that if we continue to struggle to find general contractors to do it, we'll perform or pursue Plan B, Plan C, Plan D to perhaps hire subcontractors ourselves, that we take on the general contractor role, or find some other way to make sure that the funds that are available to fix those homes get used to the extent possible under the grant agreement. So it's not an option for those homes not to get done. The methodology has changed due to us requiring the pre-qualification ordinance, and so and it may change further. But the working with the foundation, the commitment that we had with them this time last week was that we will be able to use the funds past June 30th, and if we need to change exactly how we administer the program to make sure that the homes, the whole point is to improve the homes. So how we do it, we're going to find a way to get that done.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
I don't have a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. We don't have a motion. I need a motion, and keep
This
in
is
mind.
Counselor Stout. I move for approval to reject the bids.
Mayor Boydston seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and once again, for clarification, the vote yes would be yes to reject the bids. No is to move forward with the bids that are in place. So with that being said, roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 3 passes. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract between the City of Muskogee and Holloway, Updike, and Bellin Consulting Engineers in an amount not to exceed $25,000 for assistance with FEMA paperwork and documentation due to flooding at the water treatment and wastewater plants, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. Back after the flooding, we did an emergency contract with Holloway, Updike, and Bellin to help us with all the flooding issues at the pollution plant and the water plant. What this is follow on after we've had the meetings with FEMA. They've provided, we know the information we now need to give them. We have to divide up some of our OWRB contracts to match, to pull out part that was flooding work versus what was work we were already going to do. And this is for that effort for Holloway, Updike, and Bellin to complete that work so that we can get our reimbursement through FEMA. And Steve Toller is on the line to give us an update on the pollution plant, OWRB, and flooding projects, just to get us up to date on what's going on out there. There's a significant amount of work that's gone out there.
Thanks, Greg. This is Steve Toller, Hub Engineers. Thank you all for letting me talk with you tonight. Just give you a quick summary. We currently have 4 active construction projects at the wastewater plant. We're finishing up the original big project, the phase 1 equipment replacements. We're about 80% complete done on it, and the contractor's working on the last big portion of the work, which is the big raw sewage pump station at the wastewater plant. The wastewater plant SCADA improvements project is complete, except for some change order work that the council approved several months ago. Submittals have been reviewed on that. We're just kind of waiting on equipment to be shipped. And we're seeing a little bit of a delay because we can't get the contractor out of Dallas up to finish up that portion of the work because of the COVID restrictions right now. At the wastewater plant, the emergency clarifier repairs, there was a clarifier that was damaged. Concrete was broken due to the flooding. Work on that's about 10% complete right now. Again, waiting on equipment shipments. And we've been notified that we're going to be about a month behind receiving clarifier equipment because of travel restrictions and plant shutdowns on that. Same thing with the wastewater plant HVAC repairs. Construction's about 20% complete on that. All the major submittals have been approved. Electrical work's been done. Everything that the contractor can do to facilitate the work is done. We're just waiting on equipment. So, the agenda item before you has the $25,000 not to exceed agreement. That's just hourly work for us to assist the city with any future FEMA requests. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Question, this is Councilor Coleman. Question I have for staff is the $25,000 that we're expending, is that also FEMA reimbursable?
Yes, it would be.
Thank you.
This is Counselor Stout, and I move for approval.
Tracy McGee, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes, sir.
That was a great report, Mr. Raleigh. But I don't care who gets in front of that mic right there. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it to anybody in here that comes before that mic tonight without a mask on. Those droplets out of your mouth is getting in that mask. I checked with before the meeting started, we could spray that mic, but we can't spray that mic. So last week you had that mask on. I mean, you didn't have it on, but you had it hanging down. But I think as a leader, as a department head, it's not my place to tell you. It's Mr. Miller's. He's your boss. And the city council is his boss. And I think that when you come to that mic, you need to have a mask on, for people's safety in this room here. That's just my 2 cents. But, seems somehow I'm not saying it, but I just don't want it to hit your home. I'm just trying to protect you for your safety. I'm not trying to be mean or ornery, anything like that, or hateful. I just want you to be safe, sir. That's all. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion and a second. A roll call, please.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
And Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Arrow Point Solar to install, service, and monitor a 300-kilowatt solar system for the Muskogee Civic Center in an amount not to exceed $480,800 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, just to give you a little bit of background, last year we started looking into the possibility of installing a solar system at the water plant, Bush Control, Civic Center, Swim and Fitness Center, and the public library. Based on our research, the Civic Center was the best facility to start with. It had the largest cost savings over the life of the system, which is over $2 million, for the payback period, which is less than 10 years. As you may recall, we discussed the proposed project with City Council during the budget process, and Council approved budgeting $260,000 in capital outlay to be used towards the purchase and installation of this system. As you know, capital outlay provides funds to fund major projects or major purchases of new equipment and cannot be used for day-to-day operations. Therefore, with the City Council approval of the budget, we prepared an RFP, a request for proposal, to install a 300 kW solar system at the Civic Center. We did receive 4 RFPs. The review committee reviewed the RFPs and determined that Arrow Point Solar was the best company for this project. Their proposal is a lease purchase, and I'll briefly go over the financial breakdown. The total system cost is $560,800. We have a tax credit of $80,000. So the system cost after the tax credit is $480,800. We're proposing a down payment of $260,000, which is what was budgeted in capital outlay for this project, with a balance of $220,800. 0% interest for the term of the lease, which is 69 months, leaves us with a monthly payment of $3,200. The monthly solar production value or savings is estimated to be $3,611 a month. So the monthly payment is less than the cost savings. So to just recap, this is a budgeted item. The payback is less than 10 years. The estimated savings to the city on electricity over the life of the system is $2 million. The life of the system is expected to be 25 to 30 years. Staff has reviewed, recommended approval. Purchasing committee met earlier today and also recommended approval. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garvin. Do we have any discussion on this item?
This is Counselor Stout. I move for approval.
Yes, Councilman Coleman.
Just before we move forward to ask for a second, Mr. Garvin and Mr. Miller, one of the questions I have before we move this item forward is there a way that we can actually get a copy of some type of cost analysis that might have been done that actually shows what those savings will be and when we'll actually realize it, because it wasn't as an attachment in our file. And I think with this type of expenditure, it would be probably would be better if each of us actually had that breakdown before we took action tonight, and that way we can take the proper action on this coming Monday with that background information.
Absolutely, we'll make sure that that's an attachment for next Monday. Obviously, this is committee meeting, so nothing's approved tonight in any final form, and we can put that proposal in as in the packet, and we can send it certainly before then as well. We can probably send it tonight or tomorrow to the council for review, and then we'll have it in the packet as well for next Monday.
And one of the other things I think might be helpful for us to have in the packet is if there's a way that we have projected maintenance costs associated with maintaining this system, because we want to be certain that we save money over the long haul, but not end up giving that money back because of maintenance. So if there's a maintenance agreement or something that shows the warranty, I think we should probably have that as well.
Absolutely. Those were all elements in the proposal, and those are good suggestions, and were considered. But yes, it'd be good for you to have all that in front of you, and we'd be happy to do it.
And the last thing I have is, since most of Oklahoma is mostly a wind state, is there something that can also be included to show why we're going with solar versus why we're not going with windmill?
Yes, we'll have that as part of it.
I'll be glad to put something. I'll be glad to put something together on that. Typically, though, your solar is going to be a much greater cost savings than the wind.
Thank you.
I'll see what I can put together for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, at the present, we have a motion on this item, but we have several items that have been requested. So I guess the question to council, do we want to move forward with a second tonight, or do we want to hold off until Monday to have opportunity to review the items that's been requested?
I would like to hold off till Monday.
This is Counselor Morgan. I second that.
Okay. So
let's make sure what she, Counselor Morgan, are you seconding the motion made by Counselor Stout?
The hold. By Marlin. The hold until Monday.
Okay. That was Counselor McGee.
So do we need to to request that Jamie?
Well, hers would have technically failed for lack of a second.
Okay.
So then, if we consider Counselor McGee's motion to either, I believe, move forward to Monday night with that recommendation,
Correct?
and then consider Counselor Morgan's as a second to that motion.
Okay, so we do need to take a vote.
Yes.
Okay. So once again, to be clear, we are going to, we're requesting information. So this vote, once again, Roy, just for those who are on the phone.
The motion will be to move this item forward to City Council without recommendation.
We're moving this forward with our recommendation. So with that being said, roll call, please.
Tracy McGee,
I have some more, I'm sorry. That is with the attachments, correct? Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 5 passes with the motion presented, and that will conclude our Finance Committee meeting for today.
This is Councilor Coleman calling to order the Public Works Committee meeting for tonight. As Councilor Reed has stated at the beginning of the Finance Committee meeting, all of the rules regarding routine procedures for meeting in public now apply to the Public Works Committee as well. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of April 6, 2020.
We've had an opportunity to review the minutes. Do we have discussion or a motion on the minutes?
This Councilman
The
Van.
mayor moves approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Councilman Van, I'll second that.
We have a motion from the mayor, a second from Councilor Van. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item passes. Item number 2.
Discuss and take action to authorize and direct staff to post a law enforcement officer at the interior entry to City Hall during meetings of the council, as well as Public Works and Finance Committees.
Councilors Reed and Van.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will start this item off. I guess we must explain that this was an item that we had before us on last weekend. Councilman Van did a great job with painting the picture of how we have some lapses throughout our city hall when it comes to security during these meetings. I was kind of troubled when the next day the Phoenix said that the city council didn't take no action or any consideration to what Councilor Van was saying, and I think it was really unintentional, but last week we didn't even offer any discussion for this item. So we've asked that this item be brought before us again on tonight in the form of a motion. It's the way it's been drafted, but before we make that motion, I think Chief T, he would like to make some comments at this time. And then following his comments, I believe Councilor Van would like to make comments as well.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, I want to let you know as a council that I agree that we need to have security at the meetings. That's what I'm here for. Originally, if you remember, there was an officer that was here that was uniformed. When I took over the chief's position, if you all remember, we're extremely shorthanded as far as our manpower goes. Currently, we're 12 officers down. We're 5 understaffed and 7 that are in some form of training. We're currently short in our drug unit. We're currently undermanned in our investigation division. And there's several days that our patrol divisions start where they're not fully staffed as well. We currently have a rotation basis going where we have our CROs, which is our community resource officers, as well as our school resource officers who are on a rotation basis so that when we're shorthanded on patrol, which is often, they will pull out of their community outreach duties and go to patrol to help man those levels. The time of day when we have our meetings and on Mondays, our 3 highest hours of call volume is 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Our highest accident volume
is 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And obviously accidents tie up a lot of officers' time because it takes time to complete those as well. I've done some research since last week when Mr. Van had mentioned the information about the security. Homeland Security several years ago put out a system where we can get information on analysis as well as trends across the country if there's particular threats, those type of things that may have to do with anything to do with government, from city government to city halls, anything along those lines. We have access to that. That's something that we get updates on a lot of times every couple of days. If something comes out, regardless of what it is, it comes to our office, and if it's something that I need to forward on to the rest of our officers, I do that on occasion. The bottom line is that it may not be as good as what a uniformed officer is, but either myself or one of my deputy chiefs are always here. If we can't be available, then we will have a uniformed officer out there. We also have, the way our system works as far as our districts, we have 2 downtown districts. Those officers are in the downtown area, and so they're close if needed. But right now, it's strictly a manpower issue. If we have the ability at some point to get fully staffed, I'll be more than happy to try to assign one of those guys or gals to stand in the hallway or wherever we want to do. The problem is right now it's strictly manpower. If we do that, and that's what I wanted the council to be aware of, is that if we pull somebody to work out here, they're coming off the streets of a skeleton crew on many occasions as well. So I just wanted you all to have the updated information as to why we don't have a uniformed officer here, so that you can make that decision accordingly. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Chief. May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it my turn to speak, or?
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, Chief Teehee, but like I said, this has been brought before you before. It's been brought before you, even before we got this virus. I have brought it up here to council, and they've done some things downstairs. I think that if you have to have one man, you yourself could be downstairs and sit up here with us. The main problem is down coming through those front doors right now. Before the meeting, I went down there. I wanted to see if it was an officer down there. No, there's no officer or anything down there. It's just bare. So that person come through that door, just like I explained to you last week. Can go through that hallway, put a bomb there, come up to the second floor where Roy and the office is, the city manager's office is, put a bomb there while we're sitting right here. This is the problem that we need to get fixed. You really, please don't think I'm trying to disrespect you in any kind of way, sir. Instead of sitting right there in that chair, you need to be downstairs where the main door is, where the main people's coming in would be actually able to come in at. That's my problem. Just like last week. I know you spoke. You spoke. But you had Chief Farmer here, Deputy Chief Farmer here, and you. Y'all both sat right back there. After you got through speaking, you could have got back to that door. You could have got back. Well, he could have went downstairs while he was here. So there's no excuse in that. I don't buy these excuses. I know you're shorthanded. I know we got some officers that we took to school, and that's what used to get me when Chief Etridge was here. It don't do us any good for a chief of police to be with their back towards and looking at us towards that door. Need to be downstairs. That's what I'm trying to say. In other cities you go to, it's in no way this would happen at a city council meeting in Tulsa, the rest of the cities I mentioned to you, and every time I go to the National League of Cities, I always go to City Hall and see how their security is set up. Just like Billy Coffer, he used to be the maintenance person here. He drew up a plan downstairs for Tammy's office and also the water department office, which we're going to get in place. And I'm glad he drew that up, because when people come in there, they have like a petition. And then another petition when you walk into the water revenue office. That needs to be like that. The county, they have a perfect setup over there. Sir, only thing I'm asking is just some protection up here, because we never know who's going to come through that door. These days and times that we live in now, people are having a hard time paying their bills, having a hard time paying their rent, everything, having a hard time getting food. Sometimes it's not, I will say it'd be a mental thing. Somebody mentally could come through that door right now And we all be in trouble because you're looking at me and nobody's down there. We all be gone. And I hate to see this happen up here, but like I say, you have been warned, and this is the second time that I've warned you about having security for us up here in these meetings. Public Works and City Council. That's all I'm asking, sir. If you're up here, please be downstairs if you don't have anything to do. And if you do, please go downstairs. And if you do have a speaking engagement or something, at least get an officer off the street. It don't take that long to get officers off the street to help us up here. Our lives are just important as a people out there today. You said your level was from 3 to 6. When I come up here and sit at this desk, my life is just as important as any other citizen. All of us in this room is just important. That's all I ask. I want some security up here. Me sitting up here as a city councilman working for free, but officers are getting paid well. My family means something to me to go home to tonight. Yours do too. Everybody in this room's family means something to go home to tonight. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Van. I will say to my colleagues as well as to our staff here tonight, one thing that I might suggest that we consider in advance of carrying the motion forward is that if we have conversations regarding security, one of the things I think we don't want to do is reveal to the public what that plan might actually be. And so at some point we may have to schedule some communication type lunches or something to act upon whatever we decide without revealing what our security plan is, because we wouldn't want our revelation to be a vulnerability to someone who might actually attempt to do something. That would just be my comments. And so, Councilors Reed and Van, I believe your agenda item is written in the form of a motion. I'm not certain if we want to move that motion forward or have other conversation from other committee members at this time.
Well, the mayor would like to say something.
Go right ahead.
I just would like to remind everybody that we are being encouraged to participate in these meetings by telephone, and there's no need for any of the council to be there. We could have this meeting strictly by telephone in the modern way, and everybody would be safe at home. So we might want to look at that for a while, especially until we can get our police force up to the strength that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes.
I agree with Ms. Boyston. I could be at home, but I chose not to be at home. I chose to be up here. But like I say, we have this problem not only started today or last week. This problem's been like this for years now. Even when you were a mayor, Mayor Boyston, when you were a mayor and also a city councilman. And I guarantee you, if you'd have brought it up back in those days, we would be in the shape we are right now. We'd have somebody back on these doors. We'd have some type of security up here. So I don't buy what you said just a while ago, that if we all stay home, blah, blah, blah. That don't fit good with me. You know, I know I could be at home, but I chose to be up here. But still, the fact is, we need security. We don't need to put it off anymore. We need some type of security up here with us. When y'all come back, you need security. While we're here right now, we need security. I don't know how I can emphasize how much important it is to have security and be in a city that has security downstairs and upstairs and go through a metal detector. This is very important. If it's not so important to none of these councilmen up here, take a trip to Tulsa to G.T. Bynum and their city councilman. So I know some of them up there. You just don't walk in their city hall. They have the stuff to keep people away. And I know we don't need to tell people what we got up here and this and that, but sometimes, like I say, it's just ridiculous the way this stuff is up here. This is not professional. Professional cities do not sit up here like ducks like we are tonight. Professional cities have security, metal detectors. Even when they come in, see, without the metal detectors, some of them even have wands where you got to be wanding. All I'm asking is Chief T. he be downstairs and sit up here with us. That's all. That would kind of deter. We hear bullets, you know, there's something wrong down there. I don't want Chief T. he to get hurt, but still, we need security in place. Not just put it off to Monday night. We need security in place up here Monday night. I'm tired of us not having security. And you're going to come and tell me that, oh, we just, you chose to stay home. That's just an excuse. So I don't buy that. I just can't buy that. Not when my life's in jeopardy up here. And when y'all come back, y'all's lives is in jeopardy also up here. So you can't feed that information to me. You just can't do it. I know better. I got better sense than that. I got common sense. I'll turn the floor back over to Mr. Chairman.
So at this time, I'm going to call for either a motion and a second or other discussion so that we can proceed with the meeting at this time.
I will make a motion to direct staff to put in place a law enforcement officer at the entrance of our city hall during our public meetings.
Councilman McGee, second that.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilor Reed and a second by Councilor McGee. Do we have any other discussion at this time? Roll call.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
No.
Alex Reynolds.
No.
Evelyn Hibbs.
No.
Jamie Stout.
No.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
No.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydson.
No.
We have 6 noes.
Item number 3.
Receive report on the progress of the 24th Street reconstruction project or take other necessary action.
To the committee members that are listening by phone as well as those that are present on tonight, we ask that this item be placed on the agenda so that we can receive an update on this project. We realize that this is one of those projects that has been critical to our residents for quite some time now. And several of us on the council and other committees have been receiving questions about the status. And so we ask that this agenda item be placed on tonight so that residents as well as the council members can understand what the progress is on this project. And at this time, I turn this over to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Councilor Coleman. I'm going to ask Mr. Riley from our Public Works Department to come up. He has prepared an update based off of where we thought we would be on the project and the contract and where we are today and what the next steps are.
So to date, we're working on the first phase of the project, which is Okmulgee to Martin Luther King Boulevard, Junior Boulevard. And we have, they've demoed basically everything. There's a few more concrete areas to be demoed, but the street's been removed. There's still some to be done. And then they've put in the majority of the water line. It's not, and we've had quite a bit of weather, bad weather, but there's a difference in our number of weather days that we should allow and what they're asking for, and that needs to be negotiated out and will be. But the overall, based on their original project schedule, they should have what they've done now, plus the storm drain in, and right now they've only got the storm drain boxes in, not the piping, which is a pretty big item. So overall, based on their schedule initially submitted, they're about 2.5 months behind. The phase 1 completion date from the original schedule is August 8th, which plus any weather days. So we're between 10 and 30 weather days to add to that. So in August, currently, and plus there could be more weather days if that happens, if it keeps raining. But right now, sometime in August, phase 1 should be complete per the schedule, and that is possible based on what they've done. Even though they're behind schedule right now, I believe it's possible that part could be complete in August.
When we say August, Mr. Riley, August of 2020?
Yes, and that's the first phase, and then they go on from Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to Shawnee, which is the second phase.
Okay.
Right. So we're only shutting down a part of 24th Street at a time. So we're shutting down the south part as it approaches from King Street to Okmulgee now, and then when that part's done, we'll reopen in that part and close the part north from King Street or from King Boulevard to Shawnee. So August is for the first phase of it.
And that's complete and open to traffic on that first south half. So, and that's doable by August.
So does that include the extensions that are being requested with the weather days?
The weather days, right now it's August 8th on the schedule.
Okay.
So if the weather days come in at less than 20 days, then it would be in August. So somewhere in there, and there are some other minor conflicts, a day or two here and there because of conflicts that we run into, which is normal for the project. So it's just overall, looking at the schedule, it appears they've, as they were doing this water line, they were going to be doing the sewer line at the same time. They haven't had enough crews out there to do that, so the sewer line is the part that's lagging. So.
Do we have any other questions from the council? I mean, from the committee, rather? Thank you. At the conclusion of item number 3, this now concludes the Public Works Committee meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I'll suspend the rules and be recognized on the public speaking.
I don't understand the question, Mr. Tucker.
You can, up here, you can suspend the rules. I'm asking for 3 minutes so I can be recognized.
He's talking about on the citizens wishing
Citizens
to
wishing to
address.
speak.
Citizens wishing to speak.
You didn't previously sign up 15 minutes before,
Correct.
I presume, is what he's asking. So you can grant that if there's a motion to second, it's voted on.
We need a motion and a second to allow Mr. Van 5 minutes to speak.
So moved. Make a motion to
3 minutes, I'm sorry, 3 minutes.
make a motion to allow Councilman Van to speak for 3 minutes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to allow Councilor Van to speak in the public comment section at this time for 3 minutes. Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Boy, that was the poorest yes I ever heard. But, are you ready?
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know you are. What I have a problem is up here, I seen that.
We need your name. and
Oh, I'm
address.
sorry. Councilman Ivory Lewis Van, Muskogee, Oklahoma, 4338 Columbus Street. What I have a problem is this last vote we took just a while ago. I know you councilmen are new. I respect that. But I've been up here a long time and been coming to these meetings a long time. And thank God nothing has ever happened. But pretty soon, I hope when y'all come back that you'll see it my way, that we definitely need security up here to protect us. But that tells me one thing, that what y'all did tonight was voting no. We don't need security. That's why we don't need protection in these days and times. But we do. And I just hope that you feel confidence in your conscience that you made the right vote, because I don't think you did. But I'd like to say, Mr. Miller, all I ask is Chief Teehee to be at that door downstairs. I would feel more confident on that than not having another man at that door. And that's all I'm gonna leave that with you. And I hope you and Chief Teehee can get together and do that. If he doesn't have to come up here, he can be down there for our protection. And another thing is, when people come to this mic up here, they need masks on. The country, all around the country, is wearing masks now. More every day, you see it on TV. That's how China, all the other countries, they have masks on. You know, a lot of times I say something up here, and if I say it, it doesn't get across as well. But when some other councilman up here says it, you go for it. But I'm used to that, because I put up with that when I was at the mic, being, well, I ain't gonna say disrespected, but just, you know, like, average word don't mean nothing. He don't know nothing, you know? But I got news for you. I've been up here a long time. I learned a lot. A lot. I take care of my citizens. I do my best to take care of everybody that calls me on my phone, even the councilmen in Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you don't believe that, I can take you to their houses and prove that to you. So, like I said, I just had to say that tonight, but I think y'all made a very wrong decision on your vote as far as not wanting the security up here. But please, Mr. Miller, I beg you, get Mr. Teehee at Monday night city council to be downstairs to give us some type of protection up here, since we have some councilman up here that don't care. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman. I'm finished.
Thank you. We will now adjourn the Public Works Committee meeting.
And we will call to order the special call meeting of the Muskogee City Council of April 20, 2020. And we can ask for the roll call, please.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
We're all accounted for. Item 1, please.
Receive report on the COVID-19 pandemic in Muskogee, and if necessary, take appropriate action to authorize and approve a subsequent amendment to Resolution Number 2801, declaring a local emergency, or City-County Joint Resolution Number 2803.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mayor. I would ask that our emergency manager, Tyler Evans, speak to you for a moment and give you an update. And then when he's done, I've got a few things I'd like to add. And then certainly we can have discussion and questions along this topic.
Okay. Mr. Evans, are you available?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Ms. Mayor, members of council. As of today in the United States, there have been 763,984 positive cases and 40,788 deaths related to COVID-19. There have been 2,680 positive cases in Oklahoma with 143 deaths. Estimated recoveries is 1,614. So far out of those positive cases, over half have recovered. In the county of Muskogee, we have 26 total cases and 3 deaths. 18 of those have recovered. The state has actually started breaking down the data into cities and even zip codes. I know that has been a request. It's been going for a couple of weeks. People wanted better data than just positive cases by county. Out of the 26 cases in Muskogee County, 13 are in the city of Muskogee. 2 of the deaths are from Muskogee, and so far 7 people have recovered. To take a look at this data, you can view it at coronavirus.health.ok.gov. There's a lot of good graphics and bar charts on there. They've changed it over the past week, so if you haven't seen it since they've just had the black and white numbers on there, go look at that data. The health department continues to test every day. They plan to test about 12 people a day. Cherokee Nation Three Rivers Health Clinic out on 41st Street is also conducting drive-through screening Monday through Friday from 1 to 2. It is weather permitting and testing capacity will apply. We continue to request personal protective equipment such as masks and goggles and face shields from the state. Last week I put in a request for a little over 1,000 N95 masks, and we received 260. That's kind of been the ongoing thing. I put in a request one time for 1,200. I think we got 180. I put in another request for this week for more masks for our first responders. Last week, we talked about the human mobility data and the grades that the county and the state has received. I wanted to talk a little bit about that and kind of go into the grading of how that is set up. So UNICAS is measuring the change in human mobility from pre-COVID-19 until present day after the social distancing and essential activity only requirements took place. They assign a letter grade to states and counties based on the change in the data or behavior that they see in the data. Oklahoma currently has a D grade and Muskogee County has an F. This grading is based on 3 different metrics. The first is a change in average distance traveled compared to pre-COVID-19 periods. The second is a change in visitation to non-essential venues or businesses. And the third is human encounters. So when it all started, UNICAS used Italy as their model to get a baseline. In Italy, the range of decrease in travel was 70 to 80% reduction in distance traveled after COVID-19 started affecting Italy. Italy was very strict with their policies. So far, only one state in the U.S., Nevada, has received an A grade. An A grade is very hard to get. To get an A, distance traveled must show a decrease of more than 70%. A B grade is 55 to 70% decrease in travel. a C being 40 to 55% decrease, a D 25 to 40, and an F less than 25% decrease in travel. The second metric, change in visitation to non-essential venues, Unicast categorized venues into essential versus non-essential businesses. Once they extracted the essential venues, they then calculated the average visitation each day of the week prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, which they considered March 8th and earlier as a baseline. They then compare those baselines to visits on the corresponding days of the week after the outbreak. So for example, they will go back and look how busy a store is on a Monday in December or January, and they compare Mondays to the Mondays now to get the difference. The grading system is very similar to the distant travel grading system. And for the third and last metric, the human encounters. What matters is how many people were in the same place at the same time, regardless of how much it changed from the past. And they used the trigger of 2 devices within 50 meters of each other for 60 minutes or less to be counted as an encounter. And the change in percentages is very similar to the distance grading scale. So those 3 grades were averaged together, and the counties and states were assigned a score from that. So our change in average mobility has consistently been a D or an F. However, we have received A's and B's on certain days for the change in non-essential visits and the difference in encounter density. So while the distance traveled score has been low, there has been a change in the number of visits to non-essential businesses and the number of people in one place at one time for our community and for Muskogee County. This data is updated every 12 hours, so you can see it twice a day. How a community, how a county is doing, and how they're responding to the guidelines and safer at home recommendations. And all this data can be viewed at the Unicast website, which is unacast.com. That wraps up my update for this afternoon. Are there any questions for me?
This is Counselor Stout. Thank you, Tyler, for all that you're doing to keeping us informed during this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is
If there are no questions for me, I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller.
This is Councilman Ivor Van. May I be recognized, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Tyler, last week you told me when I asked you about your mask, you said you was a grown man, you didn't need one, but you do. And like I told you again, I'm not your employer, Mr. Miller is, but if you looked at Walmart today, they're starting to make people go in Walmart wear a mask. And it's very, very important. I know you know your job, but I also listen to CNN, the people that do it a little more thorough than you would do it here in Muskogee, Oklahoma. So, like I said, I didn't say anything last week, but masks are very important to have on. And when you go in these businesses, more people now are starting to wear them. And at one time, we wasn't. So I just wanted you to know that I think you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you're doing it from wherever you're at, if you're at home or here in the building somewhere, that you're not up here at this mic, and you gave a great report. And I appreciate that. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, did you have something to say?
I did, and I do want to echo what Councilor Van said. I appreciate my staff, that many of whom are participating remotely. I appreciate, again, any efforts we can make to keep as few as people possible in this room. And so I appreciate the counselors that are here. I appreciate the ones that are on the phone, and my staff that are able to participate remotely. I appreciate that. 2 things I want to add to what Tyler said so far. One is we know this is primarily a healthcare crisis, or a public health crisis, and we're worried about people's health and how it affects them and their families, short-term and long-term. And we know it's a dangerous disease. We know we need more testing than we have. We know it's hard to tell where it is in our community, and we all need to take as many precautions as we can. So things like that scorecard are important to help give us an idea about can we do better and how. And so I think that's important. And that's the most important thing. But the ripple effect on all this is a financial impact. And so there's something that we're going to be considering. This is our budget time of year, and you guys may have seen last Friday, Tulsa announced basically 10% pay cuts for almost all their employees and furloughs. as they're scared about what the financial future looks like. They're going to start that in May and go through December. So they have 7 months worth of very severe cuts because when they take pay cuts, they're doing service cuts. Those are people that are usually out doing the work of the city that won't be out doing the work of the city 10% of the time. And other cities, Stillwater's forecasting a 20 to 40% sales tax decrease. Their range that they're predicting is they don't know whether OSU students are going to come back to Stillwater or not and be on campus or not. So Sand Springs is another city that has got their crystal ball out. They say they're looking at a 25% decrease in sales tax. So when we start thinking about our budget for next year, I feel like we're in better position than those cities as far as where we're at on our overall financial position, but it's a scary time. And so when we look at the health cost, we also know that when people lose their jobs, they're not going to spend as much money, and so we're not going to get as much sales tax. We just know that, and there's not much we can do about it except try and watch our expenses. So that's what's on our plate, and that's what falls to us to try and deal with. One other thing that will fall to us in the coming days, and I don't know if you guys care to discuss this tonight, but I want to put on your plate that the governor has a deadline that he's set for his restrictions to expire April 30th. So that's about 10 days from now. And we have done two things as a city. We've passed Resolution 2801 on March 24th, or that said, as of March 24th at 7:30 p.m., we're going to close restaurants, dining rooms, only allowing takeout and curbside and drive-through. Closed bars and those sorts of businesses. We closed gyms, fitness centers, rec centers, indoor sports facilities, theaters, cinemas, indoor-outdoor performance venues, museums, bingo halls, bowling alleys, skating rinks, and other similar recreational entertainment facilities. That's what this city council has decided, and that those are the rules until this city council says otherwise. That is a city resolution. And there was no time frame on it, and the city council said that's the standard until we decide it's not. So on March 20, as of March 25th, we adopted a joint resolution with the county. It was more specific, really directing residents to stay at home more strongly than our original resolution, which was advising them. And we said essential businesses could stay open, but they needed to submit mitigation plans. And thanks to, again, like I talked about last week, to Mr. Tucker's group and Ms. Callahan's group, more than 750 or approximately 750 of those so far. Non-essential businesses, as defined by the governor, were to close. But they could reopen at a certain time if they submit a mitigation plan. So we've gotten some of those as well. And so those, as we hope for a brighter future, those are things on the horizon that the city council will be looking. Quite frankly, I expect within the next week, the governor will make some of his ideas known about what he anticipates happening on April 30th. What we've seen nationwide is sort of kind of gradual removals of restrictions in some places. I'm not sure that April 30th it's a day that was set a month ago, and I'm not sure that it needs to that we're ready to talk about changing that date one way or the other. But the point of me bringing this up today is that falls to this body. It falls to the city council. And so next Monday we'll have another agenda item for for COVID-19 and our resolutions. And we'll have discussion then. We can certainly have discussion now about what the future looks like. But I do propose that next week we have a further discussion with council input regarding the state of these emergency orders. And with that, I've concluded, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Mayor. This is Councilman Ira May I be recognized?
Yes.
I've seen what Tulsa done, Mr. Miller, for its furloughs. Do you have any expectations that Muskogee would ever have to do that?
We are hopeful to not. But I don't have, that's one of the things that when I talk to other cities, Tulsa may have a way better crystal ball than we have to know what's going to happen between now and December, because they set furloughs between now and December. I don't think we're in as bad a situation as that, but it's something that we have to consider, and we have to look at cutting our expenses or watching our expenses in every way. And so our budget discussions that we've had internally have changed from where they were about 6 weeks ago. And a lot of things in this world have changed since 6 weeks ago. So you're asking me, no, that's not anticipated right now for full-time employees. But I can't say when we haven't got our first sales tax check since this started. We don't know. And once we start getting more information in May, we'll have a better idea what the future holds. We'll have 1 month of data versus 0 months of data, which is where we're at right now.
I just want to know, I mean, you know, we need to be honest with our employees, and we definitely need to let our citizens know what's going on, you know.
Well, I that's what I'm doing today. I'm being honest and saying it's scary out there, and no city is certain, and they're all preparing for a worse scenario than they were preparing for 6 weeks ago, and we are too. And what that is going to look like will play out over time as we see what sales tax does. And cities in Oklahoma that are super dependent on sales tax versus cities in other states that have a more stable income stream, if they aren't reliant solely on sales tax, won't see the hurt that cities in Oklahoma are going to see because their tax base is more stable.
I just don't believe this thing is done yet. And I know when we done that resolution March the 25th, that we made it, you know, we didn't put a set date on it. But I think myself personally, it needs to go out a little further than that. And I remember the night that we did do this resolution, that me and Councilman Reynolds, we tried to get the council to go and put, you know, salons and different things, barbers, and those on that list too. But they said, oh, no. You know, that's affecting other people, and then you do this one, you may do that one. Well, it was so funny the next day when the governor said it, it was all good. Yeah, I'm glad Governor Stitt said it, because he sure wouldn't listen to me, or Councilman Reynolds that night, you know. But like I say, this coronavirus thing has got us all where we can communicate with each other better. It's got us scared, and because there's nothing to play with. Because you just don't know day from day. Like you said, everything's changing. When I watch CNN, every night something changes. I looked at the paper yesterday in Tulsa. They said they've had 406 cases of coronavirus. When the news came on, it was 206. So that didn't add up too well. So people can fudge these numbers, but I just, you know, I hope, Muskogee, that we don't get any more coronavirus cases so we can go on back with our lives and live a prosperous life. But I do think in my mind that I think it needs to go on, these rules need to be in place just a little bit longer. If the governor says they don't, I know who y'all gonna listen to. It's the governor. His voice is bigger than mine. But you know, that's just the way it is. I haven't got used to it up here. But I'll turn the floor back over to you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, have you concluded your remarks?
I have. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we don't need any action on that then.
Madam Chair, this is Councilman Coleman. I'd like to be recognized for a moment, please.
Go right ahead.
This question is for Mr. Miller and Mr. Evans. We may not have that answer tonight, but do we know where we are in Oklahoma in terms of when our peak day was supposed to be?
Go ahead, Mr. Evans. I
Mr.
believe.
Murphy. Okay. Yeah. So there's some different models and projections out there, and I don't want to jump the gun, but there has been some data out there that it possibly looks like that we've passed our peak. And that was, one data is saying the 8th, one was saying a couple of days ago. We're not going up the curve like they originally projected, which is great news. This is exactly what we don't want, is to have any more deaths or increase. And it kind of looks like this week we may plateau and hopefully start going down after this week. We didn't nearly hit what they were projecting, and that's what all of us is hoping for. The social distancing, the shelter at home orders and guidelines has helped deter some of this. I don't want to speak on behalf of the state or anybody else, but I think they're waiting a couple of more days to see if this holds true, that our numbers, remain stable or hopefully start going down even more. I think before they make a judgment call on what they want to do as far as any of the guidelines. But some of the data is showing that we have possibly already peaked and we're starting to level out. But it is my recommendation, like I say, that we wait a couple more days to make sure that we didn't just get lucky for a couple of days in a row, to make sure that we have some good, stable data to work from and make informed, good decisions from.
And the reason I asked that question, Mr. Tyler, was because along the lines of the preceding comments we've had about the date, one of my concerns is that we're certain of where that peak is going to be, for one thing. And then on the other thing, Mr. Miller, I don't know how we can do this. We may want to consider trying to regionalize our dates. So, for example, if Tahlequah, Broken Arrow, and Tulsa remain closed, we may not want to be the first to open until we can coordinate what that will mean, because the last thing we would want is for our curve locally to be going down, but because we're open when other surrounding cities are not, we receive an influx of people who may be positive, and then our numbers may actually go up because we may have opened prematurely. So I don't know how we might coordinate, but that just may be something for us to think about.
That's a very good suggestion, and I can talk with the administrators and city managers in some of those the neighboring towns, certainly Fort Gibson, Tahlequah, Wagner, that are very close, and easily make those contacts, and we can work with Broken Arrow as well. I think that's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Those were the end of my remarks.
All right. I think then that unless someone else has something they'd like to say, we will go to item 2.
Consider approval of joint resolution number 2809, creating the Joint City-County Economic Recovery Task Force, formulating duties, establishing membership, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Marie and I had been coordinating between the council and the county on establishing policies and procedures in terms of a resolution for this task force. She is here to make presentations tonight, but I will say that in terms of one of those items of the resolution establishing membership, that the county on today did not assign their members to participate, to give Ms. Seabolt more time to determine what those needs would be for the actual steering committee. And so I wanted our colleagues to know that at this time. So I'll turn this over to her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Coleman, and I know you didn't do this intentionally. Seabolt is very, it is my maiden name, and I'm very fond of that name, but I am Ms. Sinar as I address you here tonight. As Councilor Coleman stated, and you'll remember from last week, I did bring forth the concept of creating a joint city-county economic recovery task force. As Mr. Miller indicated, we don't have a crystal ball. If Tulsa has one, I'm going to be asking them to share that with us. But also, as Mr. Evans indicated, we want to be able to make sound decisions based on the data that is available to us. And so I want us to be thoughtful and definitely coordinated in our approaches to reopening business, at which time that makes sense for us to do so, and also do everything we can to be intentional in delivering services to those businesses that will allow them to reopen and our workers to be reemployed. I mentioned to you that the latest data available to us as of last week was February unemployment numbers. I'm sure you have heard, but at the state level, we are currently looking at about a 14% unemployment rate, to which where we usually sit at the city and county level, 3.2 and 3.5 respectively. So those are quite scary numbers, and again, I would like for us to make sure that we're working together and collaboratively to help mitigate any future losses, as well as help get our folks back to work. With that, and thanks to the help of our city attorney, Mr. Tucker, we worked in preparing a resolution for your consideration tonight. You have that before you. I won't read all the whereases, but a summary of the duties of the Joint City-County Economic Recovery Task Force. Number one, to study and recommend to the city and county methods to mitigate the loss of industrial, retail, service, and hospitality jobs, as well as the significant economic impact that high unemployment and business closures have on the community. Number two, to monitor the economic health of employers within the city and county. Number three, to provide a clearinghouse for communication and technical assistance in navigating newly created government programs. 4, to provide case management services to businesses to ensure that our community is able to economically recover and our citizens are able to return to work. 5, to research funding opportunities and, if available, deliver recovery assistance for businesses, individuals, and families impacted by the detrimental economic impact caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, to exercise any other duties that may be assigned by the city and the county. With that, and in your resolution for consideration tonight, are how the makeup of the task force. Number one would be, of course, well, the task force would consist of no more than 10 members. One of the appointees to the task force would be myself in my role as the Director of Industrial Development for the Muskogee City County Port Authority. 2 would be Angela Wilson, who currently serves in the capacity of the President and CEO of the Greater Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce. 1 county commissioner, as selected by the county, to serve a term commensurate with his term as a county commissioner. And again, as Councilor Coleman indicated, they had not made that decision as of today, but we'll be prepared to vote on that at their meeting next week. 4, 2 city councilors, as selected by city council to serve terms commensurate with his or her term as city councilor. And finally, 5 business owners or managers representing various industries impacted by COVID-19 to serve a term of 2 years as selected by a majority vote of the other members of the Joint City-County Economic Recovery Task Force. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I guess it is at the will of the council if you're ready to make those appointments to serve on the task force, and knowing too that I plan to bring back to you next week a full slate of the proposed task force members for your consideration.
This Councilman Van, may I be recognized?
Yes.
That yes gonna have to get a little better than that, Mayor. I'm hearing you from home. You ought to have a little cheer in your yes.
I'm doing the best I can.
Okay, you ain't doing good, but go ahead. I'll go ahead. Ms. Sarner,
yes.
I believe your task force is going to do an outstanding job, in the recovery. But like Councilman Coleman was saying, and he hit the nail on the head. In Tulsa, in Oklahoma City, I watch what they do, and I have a lot of respect for those 2 mayors. When I say real mayors, G.T. Bynum, and his name is Hope in Oklahoma City, I believe. I don't know him like I know G.T. Bynum, but I'll just say G.T. Bynum. He knows he knows his stuff. He knows the mayor's role, and he can guide his city. And I want to commend you tonight, Ms. Sinar. You have that mask on, and it looks very beautiful. And I'm glad you came to that mic with that mask on. So I wanted to commend you on that.
Thank you.
So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Ms. Sweet Mayor.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to say anything reasonable?
Mayor, this is Roy Tucker. I just want to make one clarification. The presentation that Marie made on the membership terms is accurate. it is different than the resolution that was included in your packet. And the difference is the original resolution indicated only one city council member, whereas we're proposing two. And the original resolution presented to you all in your packet indicated 6 business owners, and we're suggesting to remove that down to 5. It was presented this way to the Board of County Commissioners this morning, and they did approve it as revised. And so what we're asking for in action tonight is to approve it in the same way that the county did.
Madam Chair, this is Councilor Coleman.
All right.
I was going to suggest tonight that we approve the resolution, but that other members of the council who would like to serve would either submit their names directly to Ms. Sinor or through Mr. Miller. And the only reason I'm suggesting that is because I know that 3 other councilors, in addition to myself, had already expressed an interest to being on there. And I'd like them to find a way to discuss that among themselves so that we can determine who that might be prior to Monday.
Okay. And I guess then, who should they submit their name to? Have you submitted your name, Councilor Coleman?
Yes.
All right.
Ms. Member, I recognize.
Then we need.
This Councilman Irvin,
Yes.
may I be recognized?
Yes.
You can rest at ease. It's not me. I'm not one of the councilmen, so I just want everybody to know that they can rest at ease. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you.
So just to
Mr. Miller,
clarify,
were you going to say something?
Mayor, this is Mr. Miller. May I have the floor for one moment?
Yes.
Just to clarify, if we have some more counselors interested than 2, which I assume that we do, the vetting process, you would propose that staff come back and recommend which counselors serve, or you would just I'm unclear on the process that you're proposing. What role you would like either Marie or I or someone else to play in this?
I'm not certain what that process would look like. I would only ask my colleagues because Ms. Sinor and I have already started working down the road towards funding opportunities and trying to design what that would look like for small businesses as well. I'd be at my colleagues' mercy that I allow myself to stay on it, and that if any others would like to participate, they would submit their names, and then from that list, maybe we can talk among ourselves about who those should be.
Might I ask why we are, if we have an influx of people that want to be on the committee, why are we just stuck on this number of 10? Is that a concrete measurement that we can only allow and take care of business with just 10?
So, Deputy Mayor Reed, as the resolution is written today and is being considered by you tonight, there is no more than 10 members as per resolution. That was more for design and keeping the group, should we have to meet in person, to a group 10 or less, but also just a manageable size to make decisions and act effectively. And so the other thing being considered right now is the creation of subcommittees that would report back to the task force, so that might provide other opportunities for anyone who might be interested in participating in these task force efforts.
Okay, I would be very interested, if possible, whatever mechanism it takes. If we have 3 counselors, leaders of our city that's wanting to be on that board, if we can make room for them. If it takes going an extra step to revise the resolution or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And I think those are discussions that we could have between now and next week.
Yes. And so, I wouldn't be opposed if any counselor is interested. Is there a reason for us not to ask just right now in the meeting to say if anyone's interested?
I think that's fine.
Okay. At this time, are there counselors that are interested in serving on this committee? On this task
Councilor McGee
force.
is interested in serving on that committee.
Councilor Morgan would love to serve on that committee.
Counselor Reynolds, I'd like to serve on that committee.
Well, are you making a list, Mr. Miller?
I am scribbling as fast as I can. Yes.
And it may be, Ms. Sinor, that between now and Monday, we can make the determination that the list could possibly be expanded to 14, or if my math is right, 14, to accommodate that without doing any disarray to what the planning may be moving forward.
And Councilor Coleman, if I may, there are categories within that council members may fit as well, because we're the other 5 within the 10 that's already proposed include business owners, and certainly the 3 that have volunteered today fit that category, and so they may fit in one of those other roles as well.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I said that we might want to expand the numbers because we don't want to take away from what Ms. Sinor may need in addition to those people occupying those spots. So.
Well, if the county commissioners have already voted and we decide that more people want to be, they may want their group to be represented by more people. So you better be careful how you go about it. Mm-hmm.
Mayor, this is
yes.
This is Roy Tucker. I can tell you my guess why they did not want more than one member of the county commission, because there's only 3 of them. If 2 of them get in the room, they have to comply with the Open Meeting Act. So it's unlikely that they would request that a second member of the county commissioners be added, because that would introduce the formalities that would be required of an open meeting.
I see. Okay. Well, I'll forget about that then.
And as Mr. Miller mentioned, I would also like to propose, if you have recommendations of or to fill the vacancies or the positions of the 5 business representatives, again, representing various industries here in Muskogee, I would love to hear those from you as well.
So, Mr. Tucker, I guess what I want to put forward as a motion, if it's appropriate, is that we would adopt the resolution as presented, because that's the one that was approved by the county commissioners, and that it will be amended as necessary, because if I'm right, Ms. Sinor, you have to go back and make another presentation to them to get their input again about who else they would like to recommend.
Correct. And just so that you know, and to provide absolute clarity, in my presentation to the county commissioners this morning, I outlined the original 1 city councilor, 1 county commissioner, 6 business representatives. So I understand that maybe the proposal, the resolution that they had before them indicated the change, which reduced the number of business representatives to 5 and added an additional counselor. So I will be going back before them next week to ensure that they were clear on what they voted on.
So my motion would be that we proceed as presented, with amendments as necessary to accommodate those who desire to serve prior to Monday night, or on Monday night rather, not prior to Monday night.
So what you're proposing then is to approve it as presented and discussed, recognizing that future amendments may be necessary.
Yes, to accommodate, especially to accommodate those of my colleagues who have expressed an interest.
And that's really just a statement of intent,
okay,
rather than something that needs to be formalized.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? We probably ought to have the motion as presented read to us again so everybody knows what we're doing.
So I think the motion made by Councilor Coleman is to approve the proposed resolution number 2809 as discussed, specifically the inclusion of 2 council members as selected by the council and 5 business owners, as compared with the original proposed resolution, which was in the packet, of 1 council member and 6 business owners.
And to my colleagues that are listening, that does not preclude them from participating on the committee. It just says that tonight we adopt it as is, and we'll make the necessary amendments as we need to accommodate their desire to serve. Is that correct, Mr. Tucker?
And there are other committees that members of the council can serve on later on as they're established. Is that right, Marie?
Potentially, that would be further considered by modifications to the proposed resolution.
I see. Okay. Well, do we have a second to the motion?
So let me make sure I understand where we're heading with this. We are approving the resolution as is, and possibly, after we leave the meeting, possibly there may be a possibility that we make some amendments, but we don't want to make those. You know, we have. I'm just concerned. I have 3 counselors that's willing to serve on this committee. You know, we discussed the membership, and I don't want to see the politics get involved in this. And I don't understand why we just can't make that concrete clear as we're getting ready to vote on whatever the resolution may look like.
Well, you certainly can. If, Deputy Mayor, if what you're talking about is an alternative proposal where you would make an amendment on the floor to include 2 additional council members, you could certainly do that. But the Board of County Commissioners would have to approve that change, because what they approved this morning was 2 city council members, 5 business owners.
So if the county commissioners don't want to work with the 3 councilmen, that's what we're could possibly face.
I have no indication that that's going to be an issue at all. I'm just saying that they took action based upon what was presented. So to modify it, they'll have to take further action to do that. And I'm not saying that they don't have an interest in doing that or anything, because we've not talked to them about it. But I'm just saying it would require further action on their part.
Thank you.
And Councilor Reed, I don't think they'll deny that request. If we want to say that our resolution says 4, and we present it to them on Monday, and we just approve what we come back with on Monday night, I could revise my motion.
I just think volunteerism is a great thing. I just think as we have new talent that has come on the city council and they want to serve, we ought to make room for them at the table and not push them off with, you know, subcommittees, so forth. You know, we're talking about putting our city back together. You know, we're not, after this pandemic, and I don't want to, like I said, make this into a political thing, campaigning to get on the committee. I think that's a little bit far-fetched at this point.
And so, Mr. Tucker, my motion did not get a second, so I'd like to modify it if that's appropriate, that the committee be expanded to include 4 counselors to be presented to the county commissioners for their approval with Ms. Sinor's input.
That'd be appropriate.
Tracy McGill, second that.
Okay.
How many?
If there's no more discussion, then let's have the new motion repeated so everybody knows what it is.
So the motion that was made by Councilor Van and seconded by Councilor McGee is to amend the proposed resolution to include the appointment of a total of 4 city council members to serve on the committee, leaving the other remaining numbers of 5 business owners, 1 county commissioner, the president and CEO of the Greater Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce, and the industrial development director from the Muskogee City County Port Authority.
Okay. Now, someone made that motion and someone seconded it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Councilor Coleman made that motion and Councilor McGee seconded.
All right. Is there any further discussion then?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I got a question right quick. Let me make sure I got this correct. How many councilmen, can you name the councilman who wants to be on this committee?
So I have the list, if I may, and if I get this wrong, please somebody jump in. But I have Councilor Coleman, Councilor McGee, Councilor Morgan, Councilor Reynolds. So that's less than a quorum.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
And I might suggest that if this motion passes, that we also have a motion to populate the committee or the task force with those members as a separate action.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Jamie Stout, Jamie Stout,
She may have,
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
yes. And the motion carries. And
You
then,
missed
Mr.
on
Miller?
yes.
Oh. We better let Evelyn Hibbs vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. And what was the other motion Mr. Miller mentioned?
I think this would be, it would be appropriate at this time for the four councilmen named, Councilor Coleman, Councilor McGee, Councilor Morgan, and Councilor Reynolds be appointed to the task force formally in those 4 spots, pending, of course, the county adopting the joint resolution as well.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion?
So moved, Councilor Coleman.
Seconded, Derek Reed.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Definitely yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes, and the motion carries. Item 3.
Consider approval of resolution number 2806, authorizing certain modifications to the medical and dental plan benefits under the City of Muskogee Employee Benefit Plan, providing and directing said modifications be incorporated into the plan documents, summary plan descriptions, and benefit summary sheets, as well as approval of resolution number 2807, approving and authorizing execution of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Administrative Services Agreement and necessary exhibits, the Blue Cross Blue Shield exhibit to the stop-loss coverage policy, the HCSC COBRA Administrative Services Addendum, the Mutual of Omaha Customer Verification Guide, the Mutual of Omaha Group Insurance Application, the MetLife Dental and Vision Application for Group Insurance Coverage, and the CVS Health Client Requirements Document, and all other required documents, all to become effective on May 1, 2020, and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute all necessary documents for renewal and implementation purposes or take other necessary action.
Kelly Plunkett.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I have handed out an updated resolution this evening. It is a resolution with 3 exhibits. And Ms. Tracy has that for distribution for the people who are not here as well. A few months ago, we went out for RFP processes to obtain a new broker for our insurance services for medical, dental, and vision and our supplemental insurance needs. We had been utilizing NFP Corporate Services for a number of years, and then through the RFP process, we selected Alliant Insurance Services to become our new broker. Due to the timing of the RFP and the renewal process, Alliant initially requested updated renewals from our carriers and then requested rates a second time because the initial rates that were received were not very competitive. They were able to negotiate better rates for us and services for our needs from the contracts and the vendors that we have listed on the resolution. With those renewals, we were able to secure negotiated contracts for our stop-loss coverage and self-insured medical insurance coverage and change to a fully insured dental and vision program. Historically, we have been self-insured for medical, dental, and vision insurance. Over the last year or so, our insurance fund balance has dropped significantly. In part, it was due to continuing the premium holiday into 2018 and 2019 after we received information from our prior broker that we could continue to do that and it would not hurt our plan. Unfortunately, that and the claims experience, our fund dropped to lower levels than we wanted it to. We've been lucky enough over the last several years to be able to increase our benefits and not increase our rates for our employees. However, this year, because our fund balance is low, we are looking to change our funding on the city's level by the tune of approximately $1 million. And this would come from the city's general fund to help bring our balance up to the 1.2 million, which is where our current broker advises us where we want to be. We understand and recognize that it's a difficult and uncertain time due to the current COVID crisis. However, we didn't feel as the insurance committee or the city that the employees should bear that cost of that $1 million increase. I have included the benefit sheet, which outlines the city's contribution increases. And again, no increases on the employees' part, but we are recommending an increase on the city's portion. Because we're recommending the insurance contribution increases from the city, that will mean that the insurance rates for the retirees and the COBRA participants will increase, and that is attached on that updated resolution for you as Exhibits B and C. The insurance committee and the city will continue to monitor the fund balance over the next several months to ensure that we are not dropping our fund balance, and we're continuing to increase that fund balance. And we will continue to do our due diligence in providing the best benefits that we can for the employees by the city. Some of the plan changes that we want to make sure that you're aware of this year. Stop loss will change to a 12-12 contract with TLO, which is terminal liability coverage. Covered COVID related illnesses and treatment will be covered. That is something that is recommended on self-funded, or I'm sorry, fully insured plans, but of course we're self-funded, but we still want to take on that. It's not a significant cost to the plan or anything like that. We want to allow our Muskogee redevelopment employee or employees to be able to participate on the city's insurance. That is something that we can allow moving forward, effective May the 1st. And we want to expand telehealth visits for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And then again, as I stated earlier, we want to enter into new agreements for a fully insured dental and vision program by MetLife. There's no coverage changes, no benefit decreases, with the exception of vision. With the exception that vision exception, the employees will have to pay a small premium or a copay on their scratch-resistant lens option if they choose that. That's the only option that will decrease under the new vision plan. And we will change vendors for various supplemental plans. Those are the plans that the employees elect and that they pay for through payroll deductions. We're happy to announce self-service enrollment this year. We are trying to comply with the COVID recommendations. We will be doing webinars for open enrollment, and we will be doing self-service enrollment and telephone enrollment. Alliant Insurance Services will have benefit advocates set up for our employees to call, and they can answer any of their questions and get them enrolled this year. We will not be doing any paper or in-person meetings. If we have to have employees come into our office to help them, we're going to request that they wear a mask, and we will help them at one of our computer kiosks in our area. These changes are all recommended by both the city and the insurance committee. Our recommendation is to approve the updated resolution that I provided this evening and the other resolution that was provided in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Brady with Alliant Insurance Services is also on the line in case you have any questions for him.
All right, anyone with any? Go right ahead.
This is Counselor Stout. May I have the floor?
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly, for that, and thank you for all your work on getting this taken care of. And I move for approval.
Madam Chair, this is Councilman Coleman. May I say something before we go to the second, please?
Yes.
What is the cost per retiree that we're talking about? Because they will absorb, I'm assuming, a sizable jump for them, given the fact that they are retired.
It's $189.84 a month for those retirees.
And how many do we have?
I believe there's about 32 that participate total for retiree insurance.
So I'm concerned about that because with everything going on now with COVID-19, that we have that number of retirees, most of whom may be considered to be seniors at that point, absorbing that type of cost out of their pocket. And so based on the number you gave, we're talking about roughly $73,000. I'd like to know, is there a way that we could absorb that with the other costs for the regular employees that we're absorbing? Certainly that's a much smaller percentage than the $1 million that we may have to absorb on their behalf at this time.
We would have to contribute to the retirees' portion of their premiums. In as much history as I know, we've never done that before. It would have to be something that the manager in finance, I believe, would have to look at, and the council would have to decide if you all wanted to take on that additional expense and contribution to those retiree premiums.
So, Councilor Coleman, I agree with what Kelly said so far. We are looking at options on how to cover this $1 million increase. Pardon me. And some of those may mitigate some of the costs. But at the end of the day, the retirees are basically paying the same as the city pays. So that's how it has been in the past. But we can and are actually in the middle of looking at a way to pay that, help pay that $1 million that would not increase that dramatically for retirees.
Because I think what I'd like to see us be able to do is to see if that's going to even be possible. And I'm not suggesting that we pay for the increase in the perpetuity, but I think for the current year, considering everything else that's going on with the COVID-19, that in addition to trying to find that $1 million to cover the premium expense on behalf of the working employees, that we ought to try to maybe account for that additional $73,000 for our retirees as a one-time option, possibly to give them some time to adjust to what their new premium rate may be over the next 12 months instead of this current time.
Understood. And like I said, we have some mitigation strategies that we're trying to flesh out through the budget process this year that can do that. So we have to. The resolution tonight shows what the city's paying and what the retirees would pay if they pay what the city pays. But that's not where we're at. That may not be where we end up.
So tonight, we're not actually saying this is the dollar amount. We're just changing the language, but we'll have to come back at another time to talk about what the dollar amount may actually be.
No, my understanding, and Kelly, forgive me if I get this wrong, if we pass it now, it's the dollar. This is the dollar amount moving forward. If we're able to, we will change that number in the future. But we need the plan passing tonight's effective May 1. So when we start having those payments for that time, they will start off being the city paying more and the retirees paying more. And as we prepare our budget for the end of this year and beginning of next year, we'll try and mitigate that as we can.
Because I think what I'd like to recommend is that maybe we give staff an additional week to see how possible that would be to have a plan to cover those retirees' costs just for this one time versus saying tonight that we're going to adopt a plan with the rate increase for the retirees. I'd like to give us time for staff to see if there's going to be a way to be able to cover that cost without them being able to absorb, without them having to absorb that at this time. And again, my primary concern is that with everything going on now with COVID-19, I'm fearful of that being such an economic hardship on that group, that one group in particular, that we maybe give ourselves a week to see if that's going to even be possible.
So I'll defer to Kelly in that we are on a narrow time frame, and because of having to switch brokers, because we had we got in this hole, so we changed our consultant, changed our broker to remedy that problem. We're kind of up against it on the deadlines. I'll defer to Kelly as to whether that week is if we're able to do that or not, and still be able to implement May 1, which is the end of our current plan.
So my recommendation, Councilor Coleman, in regards to your discussion, would be to move forward with the resolutions with the understanding that and I'm sorry if I'm misspoken or misspeaking based on your recommendation, but the retiree only, not the COBRA. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
We look at, we move forward, we see if we can find additional funding for those retiree folks within the next week or so, but we move forward with everything else.
Yes, I can accept that as long as when we come back on Monday, we have something that looks at how we can address those dollar amounts towards those retirees.
Yeah, on Monday we'll have some ideas. I'm not sure if we'll have a full proposal, but we will definitely have something that we can look at and discuss on Monday. 1 week from today. So we'll have a separate agenda item, but related to how we are funding the increased costs, but not necessarily revisiting the plan itself.
Ms. Mayor, we already recognized.
Yes.
I think this is a great plan, Kelly, that the city has, that the employees, I'm telling you, that the employees got it made on this part. They don't have to pay anything. Because when I worked at Georgia Pacific, well, I had to pay. Any other company here has to pay. That's a heck of a benefit for this, that the city gives the employees. Really, it's a great benefit. But I'm gonna say this, and and I'm gonna be quiet for tonight, and I'm going home and I'm enjoying my evening. But I'm just noticing, as I'm sitting up here, you just said when the employee comes to see you and they need to see something, you want mask on, correct?
Sir.
Well, Kelly, if you're gonna lead, you're a department head of human resources. If you're gonna lead by example, you should be by example. You should have a mask on right now. And Mr. Miller, I am not trying to embarrass you in no way, or shape, form, or fashion. Neither one of y'all. Just trying to protect your safety.
I understand, thank
But
you.
when you talk, you need to talk with this mask on, not on that mic, because you're putting germs in it, I'm telling you. But, people is watching us right now at home, they see y'all don't have masks on. We're just trying to protect you, that's all. In love. I love you both. I love everybody in here. That's why I'm saying that. Out of love, not hatred or trying to be smart up here. I'm saying it out of love.
I appreciate your concern, Councilor.
So please don't take offense to it. It's all about love. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay. Have we had a motion?
You'll make a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is Councilor Stout. I made the motion that we move for approval.
This Councilman Van
Do
seconded
we
it?
have a second?
This Councilman Ivory Van seconded it?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
That's the final item on our agenda. But before we adjourn, I would just like to say to everybody that we are all in a stressful situation, the council and the city staff and the city employees and the citizens of Muskogee. And we all need to just keep our head on straight and try to get along and do the very best we can under the circumstances which we are operating under. I appreciate all of you and what you do, and I want you to stay safe, and God bless. We are adjourned.